The evening was cold. The wind moved slowly through the empty streets. A little girl walked with bare feet on the rough ground. Her dress was torn, her hair messy, and her small hand held tightly to her mother's hand. Her mother was weak, her face pale from hunger. She had not eaten for many days. The girl too was hungry, but her eyes were filled with something stronger than hunger. Her eyes were filled with fear, with sadness, and with a strange kind of courage. The village marketplace was quiet. Most shops had already closed. A few men stood near a tea stall, talking in low voices. Women carried baskets of vegetables. Children played at a distance. No one noticed the little girl at first. She was just another poor child in a poor place, but then something unexpected happened. The girl suddenly stopped in the middle of the market street. She let go of her mother's hand and stepped forward. Her small voice trembled, but it was loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "Please take my mom," she cried. Her voice broke the silence of the street. "She will cook for you. She will make delicious food. Please take her, please." The crowd froze. A woman carrying onions dropped one to the ground. A man at the UE tea stall turned his head quickly. A boy stopped playing with his ball. Everyone's eyes moved toward the girl and her mother. The mother gasped and pulled her daughter's arm. "Stop it, child," she whispered. "Don't say such things." Tears filled her eyes. She felt shame, she felt pain. She wanted to hide her face from the people staring at her, but the girl pulled away. Her thin body shook, but she did not stop. She looked at the people around and cried again. "Please, she is a very good cook. She can make rice, bread, soup, anything. Please take her, give her food. She will work for you." The marketplace was now full of whispers. Some people shook their heads. Some looked at each other with surprise. One man laughed in disbelief. "Did you hear that? The girl is begging someone to take her own mother." The laughter cut the mother's heart like a knife, but the girl's eyes burned with desperation. She was too young to understand pride. She only understood hunger. She only understood that her mother was suffering. She only knew that she had to save her mother no matter what. The wind grew colder, and the silence after her cry felt heavy. The mother tried again to stop her. She bent down, held her shoulders, and said softly, "Child, please don't shame me like this. I am your mother, not someone to sell." The girl's lips trembled. Her small hands clenched into fists. She shouted again, louder this time. "No, I am not selling you. I am saving you. You will cook for them. They will feed us. We will not die hungry. Please, someone, please listen." A woman covered her mouth with her hand, tears shining in her eyes. Another man looked down at the ground, ashamed to see such misery. The air grew heavy with silence once more. Every heart felt the weight of the girl's words. The mother pulled her close, hugging her tightly. Her body shook with silent sobs, but the girl still looked around, searching, hoping, waiting for someone to step forward. And then something unusual happened. From the corner of the market, footsteps echoed slow, steady, and strong. A tall figure appeared from the shadows, his face half hidden by the light of the evening, his clothes simple, his steps calm. The crowd turned toward him. A strange silence followed his presence. The girl's eyes widened. Her heart beat faster. She did not know who he was. She only knew he was looking at her. He stopped a few feet away, his voice deep but gentle. He asked, "What did you just say, little one?" The crowd leaned closer. Everyone wanted to hear. The girl swallowed hard. Her lips trembled. Her voice was soft but clear. "Please, take my mom. She will cook for you. She will make food. Just give her a chance. Please." The stranger's eyes narrowed. He looked at the girl, then at the mother who stood silently with tears running down her face. For a long moment he said nothing. The air was thick with suspense. The people in the marketplace held their breath. They waited to see what this man would do. Would he laugh like others? Would he ignore them? Or would he answer the desperate cry of the little girl? The girl's small hand reached for her mother's arm again. Her voice broke as she whispered, "Someone must help us, Mama. Someone will help us." The stranger took one slow step forward. The girl's heart pounded in her chest. The mother wiped her tears quickly. The crowd leaned in closer. The story was just beginning. The stranger's question still floated in the air. The girl's small body trembled. Her mother lowered her eyes, ashamed to even stand there. The crowd waited in silence, but inside every heart a storm had started. How could a little child speak such words? Why would she beg someone to take her mother? What pain had forced her to do this? The answer lay in their past, a past filled with struggles and broken days. Once, they had a simple but happy life. The mother worked in a small kitchen for a kind family. She cooked rice, bread, stew, and sweet dishes with love. Her hands were quick, her flavors strong. Her food made people smile. The little girl often sat near the fire, watching her mother stir the pots. She laughed, she played, and she felt safe. But life changes without warning. The father, who once worked in the fields, fell sick. His cough grew worse each day, medicines cost money, and money was something they never had enough of. Soon, he could not work, and the little family's income grew smaller. The mother worked harder. She took extra hours, carried heavy loads, cooked for strangers in the market. But still, the money was not enough. The sickness grew stronger, and one night, the father closed his eyes and never woke again. The house became quiet. Too quiet. The little girl asked where her father had gone. The mother only hugged her tight. Tears falling into her hair, days turned into weeks, and the world grew harsher. The family she worked for no longer needed her. "We cannot afford another helper," they said. And just like that, her job was gone. The mother searched for new work. She knocked on doors, stood in lines, asked for help, but no one wanted a poor widow with a small child. Sometimes she washed clothes for neighbors, sometimes she sold small snacks. But there were more days without food than with. The little girl grew thinner, her eyes lost their brightness. Her stomach cried every night, still she never complained. She held her mother's hand tightly, whispered, "I am fine, Mama. We will be okay." But she was not fine. Hunger burned like fire in her belly, her body weak, her voice thin. Yet she carried something her mother did not have: courage without fear. The mother's pride stopped her from begging. She could starve, but she would never ask for pity. She would never cry in front of others, but the girl was different. She was too young to understand pride, too innocent to feel shame. She only knew that hunger kills, and she wanted to save her mother, so, that evening, when her legs shook and her lips dried, she looked around the market and made her choice. Her small heart beat fast, but her voice rose. "Please take my mom, she will cook for you." It was not just a cry for help. It was her only weapon against the cruelty of hunger. The mother remembered better days. She remembered feeding her daughter warm bread. She remembered the laughter of her husband. She remembered how life once had color. Now everything was gray, cold, and painful. She held her daughter's hand and wished she could protect her from such misery. But the girl refused to stay silent. She loved her mother too much. She would rather shame herself, she would rather cry in front of strangers, she would rather risk anything if it meant her mother could live. As the crowd watched, whispers grew, louder. Some people pitied them, but pity does not fill an empty stomach. Some people mocked them, but laughter does not give shelter. Most just stood and stared, powerless or unwilling to act. The stranger, however, was different. His eyes carried a weight. He had seen pain before. He had lived through struggles himself. And now, hearing the girl's desperate voice, something inside him stirred. He looked at the child, at her thin arms, her cracked lips, her brave eyes. He looked at the mother, her face tired but still filled with quiet dignity. He understood this was not just hunger. This was survival. The backstory was written on their faces, etched into every wrinkle, every tear, every trembling word. The girl did not stop. Her voice rose again, her tone urgent. "She can make rice, bread, soup, anything you want. Please give her food, please give her work." The mother pulled her close, whispering, "Stop, child, I cannot let you do this." But the girl's reply was simple, sharp, and true. "If I don't, Mama, we will die." The crowd gasped. Some turned away, unable to bear her words. Others bit their lips, ashamed they had more food than they needed while this child begged for survival. The stranger's fists clenched at his side. He took a slow breath. His heart remembered wounds of the past. His eyes softened. He knew he could not walk away, but before speaking, he wanted to test them, to see the truth with his own eyes. He stepped forward, his shadow falling over mother and daughter. The crowd went silent again. "What if I believe you?" he asked slowly. "What if I give her a chance? Will she prove it?" The little girl's eyes widened. Her heart jumped. The mother stood frozen, torn between pride and desperation. The marketplace held its breath. The story of their suffering had been told without words. Now the test of fate was about to begin. The stranger's words fell heavy in the air. His deep voice cut through the whispers. The crowd turned their eyes toward him, some with curiosity, some with doubt, some with fear. The little girl clutched her mother's hand. Her thin chest rose and fell quickly. She had hoped for this moment. She had prayed for someone to listen, and now a man had spoken. A man who did not laugh, a man who did not mock. But not everyone in the crowd felt the same. A shopkeeper leaned against his stall and shook his head. "Foolish child," he muttered, "selling her own mother like a loaf of bread." His words dripped with scorn, yet his hands shook slightly as he tried to look busy with his scales. A woman whispered to another, "It is pitiful, but dangerous. What kind of man would take such an offer?" Her eyes darted toward the stranger, fear mixing with suspicion. The mother lowered her face, shame burning her cheeks. Her daughter's cries echoed in her ears like knives. She wanted to vanish. She wanted to run. But her body was weak. Her legs heavy, and her pride had already been crushed in front of so many eyes. The girl, however, did not hide. She lifted her chin, her voice shaking but strong. "She can cook, please believe me. Mama makes food that warms the heart." The stranger studied her silently, his eyes calm but unreadable. He did not smile. He did not frown. He simply stood like a rock in the middle of a storm. The crowd, restless, began to murmur louder. One man laughed harshly. "What a joke. Does she think her mother is a servant to be auctioned?" His laughter was cruel, but it made others laugh nervously too. The sound cut into the girl's courage, but she did not step back. Another voice rose, softer this time. "Shame on you all. Look at the child. Look at her ribs. Can you not see she speaks only from hunger?" It was an old man, his beard white, his eyes sad. He shook his head slowly. "This is not a market game. This is life or death." The words silenced some, but not all. Children peered from behind their mothers, wide-eyed and curious. They had never seen such a scene. A little girl offering her mother in front of strangers. It was strange, it was frightening, and yet it was unforgettable. The mother's tears finally fell. She crouched down, pulling her daughter close, her voice a broken whisper. "Enough, my child. Enough humiliation. I cannot bear this shame." But the girl shook her head violently, her thin hair flying, her voice high and raw. "It is not shame, Mama. It is love. I don't want you to die. I don't want us to starve." Her words cracked through the silence like thunder. Even those who laughed earlier now lowered their heads. The marketplace felt smaller, heavier, as if her pain filled every corner. The stranger took another step forward, his boots pressed against the dust of the street. The crowd leaned in, breaths caught, waiting. "Prove it," he said at last, his voice steady, almost commanding. "If your mother can cook, prove it now." The mother's heart pounded. Her lips trembled. She wanted to refuse. She wanted to protect the last piece of her dignity. But her daughter looked at her with pleading eyes, bright with hope. "Mama," the girl whispered. "This is our chance." The stranger reached into a small bag slung over his shoulder. He pulled out a handful of rice, a little salt, and a few dry vegetables. He placed them carefully on a cloth at his feet. The crowd gasped, surprised. "Use this," he said firmly. "Show me if your words are true." The girl's heart jumped. Her tiny hands shook as she pointed at the ingredients. "Mama, you can make something. You can show him." But the mother's fingers froze. Her mind was filled with fear. What if she failed? What if the food was not enough? What if this was just another trick, another cruel test from fate? The crowd waited like hawks circling prey, some eager to see the result, some ready to mock again, some secretly wishing she would succeed. A silence thicker than smoke filled the air. Only the crackle of the tea stall's fire could be heard. The mother closed her eyes, took a slow breath, and finally nodded. Her hands reached out, trembling. She touched the rice, the salt, the vegetables. They felt rough, simple, but to her they were more precious than gold. The girl smiled through her, tears, hugging her mother tightly before letting go. "You can do it, Mama," she whispered. The crowd stepped back slightly, giving space. The stranger crossed his arms, watching without a word, his face still calm, but his eyes sharp. And so, in the middle of the dusty marketplace under the stares of dozens of strangers, the mother bent down, lit a small fire with dry sticks, and prepared to cook. The people leaned closer, hearts pounding. Would she prove her worth? Would this strange test change their fate? The little girl held her breath, her eyes fixed on her mother, hope glowing inside her like a tiny flame. The marketplace had turned into a stage, the mother into the performer, the stranger into the judge, and the world seemed to wait for the first taste. The tension grew, the fire cracked, the crowd whispered, and the story moved toward its turning point. The fire crackled softly as the mother's trembling hands moved over the pot. The rice sizzled, the vegetables released their faint aroma. Salt touched the air, and the market grew strangely quiet. No one laughed now, no one spoke loudly. They all stood watching, waiting. Their eyes were not on the food, but on the tall stranger who had placed the test before them. He stood calm, his figure outlined by the dim evening light. His face was hard to read, his expression carried no smile. No frown, only silence. His eyes, however, told another story. Deep, searching, and heavy with memories no one could guess. The girl's small fingers clutched her dress tightly as she stared at him. To her, he was not just a man. He was hope wrapped in mystery, a chance to change her. Mother's fate, but others were not so sure. Whispers spread through the crowd. Who is he? Why is he testing them? One man muttered. Another replied, I have never seen him before. He walks like someone who carries secrets. A woman added, Be careful. Not every helping hand is clean. The stranger ignored them all, his gaze fixed on the little fire, and the mother who struggled to cook with so little. The mother's hands shook as she stirred the pot. Each move was slow, careful. Every grain of rice mattered. Every drop of water counted. Her pride was gone, but her heart still carried dignity. She wanted to show the truth. She wanted to prove she was not worthless. The girl whispered softly beside her, You can do it, Mama. I believe in you. Her words gave strength. Her mother breathed deeply and continued. The stranger's eyes softened for a moment, but he quickly looked away. His jaw tightened as if he was fighting some hidden thought. The silence broke when a man at the back scoffed, What's the point? A pot of rice will not change their life. His voice was sharp, filled with bitterness, but another voice answered him. Perhaps it will. Perhaps this is not about food, but about something bigger. The crowd turned back to the stranger. His presence seemed larger than life. His shadow stretched across the dust. His very silence demanded respect. Who was he really? Some thought he was a traveler. Others whispered he was a merchant testing a cook for his inn. A few even feared he might be something darker, a man searching for servants to exploit. The tension in the market thickened. Suspicion and hope mixed, like fire and smoke. The girl, too innocent to sense all this, only looked at him with pleading eyes. She did not care who he was. She only cared that he had listened. When the food was finally ready, the mother carefully placed it before him. Her hand shook as she set the small bowl in the dust. Her eyes, lowered, she could not meet his gaze. The stranger crouched slowly, His large hand reached forward. He picked up a spoon, lifted it, and brought the food to his lips. The marketplace held its breath, every eye locked on his face, waiting for a reaction. He chewed slowly, his face unreadable, his eyes closed for a brief moment. Then he swallowed. Seconds, stretched like hours, the girl's heart pounded. She gripped her mother's arm so tightly her knuckles turned white. Finally, the stranger opened his eyes, his voice low but clear. "This is not food made from rice and salt alone. This is food made from love." The crowd gasped. His words were simple, yet they carried weight. The girl smiled, tears streaming. Down her cheeks, she whispered, "Mama, he likes it." Her mother's chest tightened with relief, but the stranger was not finished. He set the bowl down gently. His eyes moved from the girl to the mother, and then back to the crowd. "Do you see?" he asked, his voice louder now, strong and commanding. "She is not worthless. She is not to be pitied. She has skill. She has dignity." Some in the crowd lowered their heads, ashamed. Some looked away, unable to meet his eyes. Others nodded, slowly, their expressions softening, but still doubts lingered. A man near the tea stall shouted, "So what? One good pot of rice does not feed a village. Are you going to save them?" The stranger's gaze turned sharp, his eyes cold as stone. He stepped closer to the man, his voice cutting like steel. "And what have you done? You mock a child who begs for her mother's life. You laugh while their stomachs are empty. You call yourself better? No, you are smaller." The man stepped back, silent. The crowd murmured in agreement. The stranger's presence had grown even stronger. He turned, back to the girl, his eyes softer once more. He crouched to her level and said, "You are brave, child. Braver than many men. You chose to fight hunger with your voice. You chose to save your mother when no one else would. Remember this courage. Never lose it." The girl's tears sparkled as she nodded, her heart beating fast. The mother fell to her knees, overwhelmed, her voice shaking. "Sir, why are you helping us?" The stranger paused, his eyes darkened. He looked far away, as if seeing another time, another place. His voice came out low, almost like a whisper. "Because once I was hungry too." The marketplace went silent again. No one dared to speak. The mystery around him grew thicker. Who was this man? Where had he come from? What story lay behind his eyes? The girl did not ask. She only clung to her mother, hope burning inside her heart for the first time in years. The stranger straightened, his tall figure rising again, his voice deep and final. "This is only the beginning." The marketplace trembled with his words. The suspense grew stronger. The girl's destiny was about to change. The marketplace was still. The stranger's words echoed in every ear. "Because once I was hungry too." The girl's small heart beat faster. She wanted to trust him. She wanted to believe that this man was sent to save them. Yet, fear crept inside her. What if he was not who he seemed? The mother wiped her. Tears. Her body weak, her spirit torn. She bowed her head and whispered, "Sir, you have shown us kindness, but why test us? Why not just walk away like the others?" The stranger's eyes darkened. His jaw tightened as if he carried a burden too heavy for words. Then, slowly, he answered, "Because not every cry deserves to be answered. Some are lies, some are tricks, but yours was truth." The crowd stirred uneasily. Some nodded, understanding his words. Others still doubted. One man near the stall shouted, "Don't be fooled. A hungry child will say anything. What if they trick you? What if she pretends?" The stranger turned sharply, his voice cold and steady. "Did you not taste the food? Did you not see the love in it? A lie cannot season rice. A trick cannot make flavor out of nothing." Silence followed. His words crushed the man's doubt, but inside the stranger's eyes, a storm still lived. He remembered his own past, the days when he too begged, when doors closed, when people mocked. That memory made him harder, careful, suspicious. He had learned not to trust too quickly, and so he decided there would be another test. He looked at the mother. "You have skill, But skill alone is not enough. Hunger is cruel. The world is crueler. If I were to give you work, could you endure? Could you serve strangers day after day, no matter what they say, no matter how they treat you? The mother froze. Her lips trembled. She wanted to say yes. She wanted to scream yes. But her pride pulled her back. She had lived with insults. She had lived with cruelty. Could she truly bend lower for survival? The girl grabbed her mother's arm, her eyes wide, her voice urgent. Mama, say yes, please say yes, we need this chance. The crowd leaned in, watching, every ear hungry for her answer. The mother swallowed hard. Her voice came out small. Yes, sir. I will endure. I will serve, as long as my daughter has food. The stranger's eyes softened for a brief moment, but quickly turned hard again. And you, little one, he said, crouching to the girl's level. Will you stay strong? Will you keep your courage even when people laugh at you, even when they call you names? The girl's lips trembled, but her voice was steady. Yes, I will. If it means Mama lives, I will. The stranger studied her carefully, searching for any sign of doubt. What he saw was not weakness, but fire, small yet unyielding. The test had only begun. He turned to the crowd. Do you all see? This is what hunger does. It strips away shame. It strips away pride. But it cannot strip away love. Some lowered their heads, ashamed. Others muttered, still. Can they be trusted? The stranger raised his hand, silencing them. Trust is earned, not given in words, and so there will be one more trial. The girl's eyes widened. Her heart raced. Another trial? Would they survive it? The stranger pulled out a small coin from his pocket. He held it up high so the crowd could see. This coin will buy bread from the stall yonder. I will give it to the child. If she returns honestly, without deceit, then I will know her truth runs deep. The girl's breath caught. She looked at her mother nervously. Her mother nodded slowly, whispering, Go, my child. Be honest, always honest. The crowd murmured. Some smirked, thinking the girl might steal. Others hoped she would prove herself. The tension thickened again. The stranger bent down, placing the coin in the girl's trembling hand, his voice low but sharp. This is not just money, this is trust. Do not break it. The girl clutched the coin as if it were a treasure. Her thin legs moved quickly as she ran toward the bread stall. The crowd's eyes followed her. Some whispered bets. She will keep it. No, she will run. Watch, she is just a desperate child. The stranger stood tall, silent, his eyes never leaving her small figure. At the stall, the girl handed the coin with shaking hands. She pointed at the bread. Her lips moved quickly, explaining something to the shopkeeper. The man frowned, then nodded and handed her not one but 2 small pieces of bread. The crowd gasped. Some shouted, She cheated. Others cried, No, look closer. The girl turned and ran back, her little chest heaving. She held 1 piece of bread in her right hand, the other in her left. When she reached her mother and the stranger, she dropped to her knees. Tears streamed. Down her face, she held the first bread to her mother. This is for you, Mama. Then she held the second to the stranger. And this is for you because you trusted me. The marketplace went silent again. The stranger stared at the bread in her hand. His eyes widened slightly. His jaw clenched. He had not expected this. The crowd broke into whispers of shock. She gave it back. She could have kept it, but she returned it. The mother sobbed, holding her daughter close, whispering blessings. The girl only smiled faintly, exhausted but proud. The stranger finally reached out. He took the bread slowly. His deep voice quiet but heavy. You have passed the test, child, both of you. The market shook with murmurs. Hope filled the girl's eyes. Relief filled the mother's heart. Suspense filled the air for what would come next. The stranger stood tall once more, his shadow falling over them, his voice deep and commanding. The world has turned its back on you, but I will not. This is only the beginning. And with those words he turned, motioning for them to follow. The girl held her mother's hand tightly, her eyes shining, her heart racing. A new path had opened, but mystery still wrapped it. Who was this man? What did he truly want? Was this salvation or another trial waiting in disguise? The crowd remained frozen, watching as the three figures walked away into the dimming light, suspense hanging like a storm that had yet to break. The bread still rested in the stranger's hand. The little girl's tears sparkled in the dim light, the mother's arms wrapped around her child, as if she feared the world might still steal her away. The crowd remained silent, some ashamed, some curious, some unsettled. They had seen many beggars before, but none like this, none who offered honesty in exchange for hope. The stranger's eyes were sharp, but a hidden softness lived in them. He looked at the girl, then at the mother, his voice calm, steady, but filled with weight. "You have shown me honesty. You have shown me love. But there is one last thing I must see. Can you show me strength?" The mother lifted her head slowly, her face pale but determined. "Strength?" she whispered. "I have no muscles, no riches, no power. Only these hands that cook. Only this heart that loves my child." The stranger's lips curved, not into a smile, but into something close. "Then let those hands speak again." From his bag he brought out a small bundle. He placed it on the ground and unwrapped it. Inside were a few more vegetables, a little oil, a piece of dry meat. Nothing grand, but more than they had touched in weeks. The girl's eyes widened. "Mama, you can make something with this," she cried. The mother's fingers hesitated. She trembled. She remembered her pride, her shame, the laughter of the crowd earlier. But then she saw her daughter's hope, burning like a candle in the dark, and she pushed aside her fear. She knelt by the fire again, the wood still smoldered, the pot still warm. With careful hands she began to cut, to stir, to cook. The crowd gathered closer. The smell rose slowly, filling the air. The marketplace, once filled with noise, was now wrapped in silence. Only the sound of fire and the soft bubbling of stew could be heard. The stranger watched intently. His eyes, never leaving her movements. The girl sat close, whispering encouragement. "You can do it, Mama. Make it the way you always did. Make it with love." As the stew thickened, the aroma spread wider, stronger than before, richer, warmer. The people in the market felt it. Their mouths watered, their hearts stirred. A man at the edge whispered, "It smells different. Not like any food I have tasted." A woman answered softly, "It smells like home, like comfort." The mother worked with all her strength. Her hands no longer shook, her body weak but her spirit fierce. She poured everything she had left into that pot, not just food but her soul, her memories, her love for her child. At last it was ready. She lifted the pot with trembling arms, poured the stew into a simple bowl, and placed it before the stranger. Her eyes lowered, her voice quiet. "It is not much, but it is the best I can give." Tipper. Stranger crouched again, his hand steady as he lifted the spoon. The crowd leaned forward, their breaths held, their eyes wide. He tasted slowly, carefully. He chewed, then swallowed. His face unreadable. The girl grabbed her mother's arm, whispering, "What if he doesn't like it? What if—" But before she could finish, the stranger spoke, his voice deep and powerful. "This is not just food. This is survival turned into flavor. This is love turned into strength. This is dignity in a bowl." The crowd gasped. A murmur spread quickly. Some nodded. Some wiped their eyes. Even those who mocked earlier now felt something heavy in their chest. The little girl burst into tears, hugging her mother tightly. "You did it, Mama. You did it," she cried. The mother's own tears fell, but for the first time in years they were tears of hope, not despair. The stranger stood tall, his shadow falling over them. His voice rose louder, strong enough for all to hear. "Remember this, all of you. Hunger can break a body, but it cannot break love. Poverty can crush pride, but it cannot crush spirit. You looked at them as worthless, but today you tasted strength greater than your own." The crowd lowered their heads, ashamed, silent. The girl looked up at him with wide eyes. "Sir, will you help us now?" The stranger's gaze softened. He bent down, his voice gentler now. "Yes, child, your mother has proven her worth. You have proven your honesty. From this day forward, You will not beg again." The mother gasped. Her hands covered her mouth. "Sir, what do you mean?" The stranger straightened, his figure tall, commanding. "I have a place, a small inn where travelers come. I need hands that cook with heart. I need someone who can give flavor not only to food, but to life. Come with me, and you will never go hungry again." The crowd buzzed in shock. "He is taking them. He will give them work." Some whispered with jealousy, others with relief. The little girl's heart leapt. She hugged her mother tightly. "Mama, did you hear? We will not starve anymore." The mother's tears flowed freely. She bowed her head before the stranger. I do not know how to thank you." The stranger shook his head, his voice deep but kind. "Do not thank me, thank your daughter. It was her courage that brought me to you. It was her honesty that gave you this chance." The girl's face lit. Up with pride, her mother kissed her hair, whispering, "My brave child." The marketplace still buzzed, but no longer with mockery. Now it was with awe, respect, and a silent lesson carved into every heart. The stranger turned, gesturing for them to follow. "Your journey begins now," he said. And so, hand in hand, mother and daughter stepped forward, following the man whose shadow led them into a future they never dared to dream. But in the air, one question still lingered. Who truly was this man, this stranger who appeared from nowhere? Was he just a kind traveler or something far greater? The girl did not ask. The mother did not wonder. For now, they only knew one thing. Hope had returned, and with hope came life. The market still buzzed with whispers, but the sound was no longer cruel laughter. It was filled with surprise, shame, and wonder. The little girl clung to her mother's hand, her heart racing with joy she had almost forgotten was possible. The stranger stood tall, his voice calm, yet firm. "Come with me. The road ahead will not be easy, but it will not be empty either. You will have food, you will have work, and you will have a place where hope is alive." The mother's eyes filled with tears. She had lost everything: her husband, her home, her work, her pride. Yet in that moment, it felt as if life was returning piece by piece. She bowed her head, whispering, "Sir, we will follow, wherever you lead." The little girl's smile broke through the dust and hunger. She hugged her mother tightly. "Mama, we are saved," she whispered. As they stepped forward, leaving the marketplace behind, the crowd moved aside. Some still looked with envy, but most lowered their heads, ashamed of their silence earlier. A few even whispered blessings under their breath. The old man with the white beard raised his voice softly. "Remember this day, people. We saw a child's courage shame us all. We saw a stranger's kindness remind us of humanity. Let us never forget." The girl heard those words, and though she did not fully understand them, she felt proud. Her heart carried something bigger than just relief. It carried a spark of dignity. They walked through narrow streets, the stranger leading, his steps steady. The mother followed. With her daughter close, her weak body shook, but hope gave her strength to keep moving. After a long walk, they reached the edge of the town. There stood a small inn, humble but alive with light. The smell of food drifted from within. Laughter echoed faintly. The girl's eyes widened. "Mama, it smells so good," she whispered. The stranger stopped at the door. He turned to them, his gaze strong. "This is my place. It is not rich, it is not grand, but it is honest. People come here for food and rest. And I want your hands, woman, to make this food. I want your heart to give it flavor." The mother's lips trembled. She placed her hand over her chest. "I will give you my best every day, every meal, for as long as I live." The stranger nodded, then turned to the girl. "And you, child, you will not beg again. You will learn. You will grow. You will carry the same courage that brought you here. And one day, you will be stronger than hunger itself." The girl's eyes shone. She nodded quickly. "Yes, sir, I will." Inside the inn, warmth surrounded them. The fire glowed. The tables were simple, but welcoming. The mother began her first task that very night. The girl sat nearby, watching, smiling, her small stomach finally full after many days. Word spread quickly. The next morning, the market whispered again, but this time with respect. "The widow now cooks at the stranger's inn," they said. "Her food is unlike anything we have tasted," others murmured. "Perhaps we should have helped her sooner. Perhaps we were blind." The inn grew busier with time. Travelers came, ate, and left with stories of the food that felt like comfort itself. The mother's name spread, not as a beggar's, but as a cook of heart. And the little girl grew each day, stronger, braver, proud of her mother. The stranger never spoke much of his past, but sometimes late at night when the fire burned low, he would sit quietly, staring into the flames. His eyes carried memories of hunger, loneliness, and pain. Yet now, in this small inn, he had built something different. Hope for himself, and for those he chose to save. The mother often wondered why he had chosen them, why he had tested them so harshly. But whenever she looked at her daughter's bright smile, she knew the answer did not matter. What mattered was that fate had turned in their favor. One evening, weeks later, the little girl asked him directly, "Sir, why did you help us? Out of so many, why us?" The stranger paused, his gaze heavy. Then he placed a hand gently on her head and said, "Because you did not beg for yourself. You begged for your mother. You chose love over fear. That kind of courage must never be ignored." The girl's heart swelled. She hugged him suddenly, surprising him. For the first time, a faint smile touched his lips, and so life began anew. The mother cooked, the girl laughed, the inn filled with warmth. They no longer walked the streets. In shame, they no longer cried at night with empty stomachs. The story of that day in the market never left the people's memory. Some carried guilt, others carried respect. But all carried the lesson. A child's cry had changed everything. The narrator's voice closes. Sometimes it is not the strongest, nor the richest who change fate. Sometimes it is the smallest voice, crying with love, that awakens the world. Hunger can crush the body, but love can raise the spirit. And when love finds a stranger willing to listen, miracles are born. The camera would fade on the image of the girl sitting by the fire, her stomach full, her mother cooking with dignity, and the stranger watching quietly, hope burning in his eyes. The story ended, but its lesson remained. Love, courage, and kindness can change destiny.